So the Americans, they've come under attack in numerous places in Iraq and Syria in the last 24 hours. So this is, it appears to me, and I think anyone would agree, to be a coordinated move by the resistance. So I'm gonna show you what's taken place, right? So you had 3 attacks that took place. One was at the Ain al-Asad airbase. So you may recall Ain al-Asad airbase. This is the airbase that the Iranians fired at after Trump assassinated General Soleimani, right? So no one died. There were no casualties because they actually warned the Americans in advance via Iraq, if I recall correctly. And so, it was more of a warning, right? Like a retaliation without casualties. And this is the strategy that's being pursued here. So no one's been killed either in the last 24 hours, but they have come under fire. And so Ain al-Asad airbase, I've tried to plot all of these locations on the map for you so you can see what's going on. I started drawing one up myself on Google Maps, and then there was a very kind soul, I think, from the Associated Foreign Press. I'm not sure who made this map, who was kind enough to put the locations. There you go. That's the Ain al-Asad airbase. So that's come under attack. You can see here there's a statement from the occupation spokesperson. I always find this so funny because this guy, basically his job is to post on Twitter and talk about how, oh look, us Americans, we're here as a coalition and we're fighting ISIS, which we created, and we're doing good work solving the problem that we created. Dude, you're a fucking occupier. Like, could you just imagine? Please just imagine the Syrian army invading Texas and then making a fucking Twitter account, a verified Twitter account, and talking about, oh, look, we're fighting against these really big badass militias over here. What the fuck are you doing, you fucking colonizer? Go home. What is this shit? They're verifying goddamn occupiers now. This is unreal. So anyway, he's confirmed himself, right, that Ain al-Asad airbase was attacked by 14 rockets. And there were no casualties, but they did land on the perimeter, and they had 3 minor injuries, right? So that's one attack. That's one attack. Now, keep in mind, these are rockets, okay? These were rockets. Another attack was at, also in Iraq, okay? So let me pull up this other tab for you. This was at Erbil Airport, Erbil International Airport. So let me show you where this is on the map, okay? This is over here, up here in northern Iraq, okay? This is the second attack. And this was not with rockets, this was with drones. So this is something we're seeing a lot now. We're seeing, explosive-laden drones that are pulling off these attacks. And you can see over here, this is a photo over here from the smoke over Erbil Airport. And they had a very bad fire, actually. You see here? This is posted on Twitter. Fire continues to burn inside the U.S. military base at Erbil Airport. So, no casualties. Again, no casualties. But still, significant damage. Very significant damage. And now we come to the third attack, right? So 2 of these were in Iraq, at Ain al-Asad, and also here at Erbil Airport. The third one was in Syria, and this took place at the U.S. base in Al-Omar oil fields. So, as you may know, again, Syria is the cradle of civilization, right? Mesopotamia, Iraq, Syria, this is where agriculture was invented, this is where writing, language was invented. So, farming is very important here, and Syria's breadbasket region, right, where all the crops are grown, cotton, wheat, you name it. This breadbasket region is in the northeast, okay? So we're talking about Deir ez-Zor, and incidentally, the oil is also here. So Deir ez-Zor and Hasakeh, these provinces, or governorates as they're called as well, this is the breadbasket region, this is the oil region. And guess where the American bases in Syria are? They just so happen to 100% coincide with the locations of the crops and oil. What a coincidence, right? How weird. How weird that the Americans are only to be found where there is oil. Wow. Wow. It's almost as if they're plundering imperialists, right? So over here, this is a map of the oil fields in Syria. And the most significant one is here, Al-Omar oil fields, right? So again, up here in Hasake, you have some oil fields, and then down here in Deir ez-Zor, where you have the most. And this is where the third attack took place. Okay, so the Americans, they have a base there, which is again completely illegal, because you have to keep in mind, in Iraq, what do they say in Iraq? The Americans say that, oh look, we've been invited by the Iraqis to run a counter-terrorism mission against ISIS, right? They forget to tell you that after Trump assassinated General Soleimani, the Iraqi parliament voted to kick them out, voted to expel all foreign troops. Right? So again, this is the very funny paradox where the Americans invade Iraq to give Iraq democracy, and then when their democratic institutions vote to kick them out, they don't listen to them. How interesting. So the Americans, they, again, this spokesperson over here, the colonizer megaphone. So if you click on his name, right, it even says over here, right, that he's the official military spokesperson for Operation Inherent Resolve, and that they're part of the coalition to defeat Daesh, to defeat ISIS. That's their justification, allegedly, for Iraq. When it comes to Syria, oh, they have none. You know what their justification is? You remember it. You remember exactly what it was. It's Trump saying, we're keeping the oil. We've taken the oil. I love oil. And Biden is exactly the same, right? So they go through the Al-Walid border crossing between Iraq and Syria. They bring in convoys, they bring in equipment, they bring in troops, and they just build bases everywhere, right? And this is what was hit by the resistance, okay? So I can show you over here. This is another map of all the oil fields, right? But Al-Omar is over here. And so this is from Sana News, okay? This was on 29th of June. However, if you go here, there's one from 5 hours ago from Sana. It says, drones attack U.S. occupation base in Al-Omar oil field in Deir ez-Zor countryside. So again, Deir ez-Zor is the province, the governorate, and Al-Omar oil field is what was attacked, the U.S. base there. So they say that drones targeted U.S. occupation base in Al-Omar oil field in Deir ez-Zor eastern countryside. Okay, local sources told Sana reporters that drones attacked the military base of U.S. occupation forces in Al-Omar oil field on Wednesday morning as plumes of smoke were seen rising from the base. Media sources reported that the U.S.-backed Qasad militia, so this is the so-called, in English, they call them the Syrian Democratic Forces, right, which is basically, it's Kurdish-led, right? And they're the ones who are stealing the oil with the Americans. They made a deal with them, as Pompeo confirmed in the Senate. And they say, which works to secure protection of U.S. bases in the Syrian Al Jazeera region. Acknowledged the attack. So the SDF, the Kurdish-led SDF, they acknowledged the attack, but they didn't mention anything about the results of the attack, right? And the base was targeted with 2 rocket shells over the last 10 days, causing damage to it. So that's the other report we just saw here on 29th of June. So you can see here that this is a coordinated effort, right? You have multiple drone and multiple rocket attacks on 3 different U.S. bases in both Syria and Iraq. This is a resistance movement. But if you go and you read the toilet paper, garbage, malfeasant, evil news in the mainstream media, what do they tell you? They tell you, oh, it's Iranian-backed militias, right? Again, as if you put the word Iran in there and then suddenly makes it okay to just go and kill them and bomb them and malign them. Well, again, these the Hashd al-Sha'bi, when we talk about the Hashd al-Sha'bi, it's the PMU, the popular mobilization units. This is the so-called Iranian-backed militias. It's a coalition of resistance groups, okay? Various ethnic and religious backgrounds, and in Iraq, we're talking about mostly Iraqis. They're mostly made up of Iraqis. They're not Iranians. But if you listen to the mainstream media, they have you think that they're Iranians or something. No, these are Iraqis who are resisting Daesh and Al-Qaeda and occupation. They don't want you in their country. That's their right under international law. You invaded them. And so in Syria, you also have the Hashid who are operating there. And, you know, there are, I want to drive home a point here. And I think Professor Marandi and Elijah Manier, two great friends of mine of the show, they kind of sum this up in their tweets quite well here, right? So over here, Elijah Manier says that the resistance has also launched 3 rockets against U.S. facility in Syria at Al-Omar oil and gas field, right? So we just talked about that. Last month, the U.S. occupation forces bombed 2 houses in Syria on the borders with Iraq, killing 4 civilians, of which a child. So this was when Biden did that, right? The war against the U.S. is open on 2 fronts. And then underneath it says, this is the 3rd time the U.S. occupation forces are stealing the Syrian oil and under bombardment at the Al-Omar oil field. The Middle East is imposing its agenda on President Biden, okay? And over here, Sayyid Muhammad Marandi, what does he say? Let me pull up his tweet real quick. I think he put it very eloquently. So he said, the US and NATO forces will be forced to withdraw their occupation forces from Iraq and Syria, just as they were forced to withdraw from Afghanistan. For now, the resistance has been careful not to kill Western regime troops. But this policy will not last for long. Costs are mounting for Biden. It's true. So you have to understand something. The resistance, whether we're talking about Iran or Syria or the Hashd al-Sha'bi or Hezbollah, it doesn't matter. The resistance, we're talking about the axis of resistance, all of the axis of resistance. They've been very careful not to kill any occupation troops. This is a warning, what's happening here, okay? It's a warning. And the Iranians gave the US a warning last time when they killed Soleimani, right? They launched a bunch of rockets at the al-Asad air base, the same, that's the same base we're talking about. No casualties. They gave them warning, right? We're going to rain down, hellfire on your base in a few minutes. And here again, they're warning them because Biden, as you saw, he shut down several news sites belonging to the resistance, Press TV, Al-Furat, Al-Masira, Palestine Today, etc., etc. 33 news sites. What do they have in common? They belong to the axis of resistance. And then what does Biden do the next week? He goes and bombs Syria again and Iraq. And who does he bomb? He bombs the resistance. He bombs the Hashd al-Sha'bi, the PMU. Right? Don't listen to this, Iranian-backed militias, whatever that means. No, this is the resistance. It's the Hashd al-Sha'bi, the PMU, or the PMF. That's who he bombed. The people who helped helped defeat Al-Qaeda and ISIS. So he's, as usual, whether it's Trump or it's Biden, what are they doing? They're helping ISIS. They're helping Al-Qaeda. They're helping these terrorist groups maintain chaos in the region. And this is a warning. This is a response to that. Marandi is right. That's not going to last for long. That's not going to last for long, right? I mean, it's just logical. I mean, right? This is just analysis of what's happening. It's just an analysis. And again, as Elijah puts it here, right? The U.S. killed 4 members of the security forces last month on the borders with Syria. The Iraqi retaliatory message to the U.S., leave our country. So I want to make one thing clear over here. Whatever your opinion is, or whatever you hear on television, there is one simple fact that is undeniable. The United States and their Western allies are occupiers. They're invaders. They invaded Iraq in 2003. They are still occupying Iraq. They are occupying Syria. They are stealing. They are thieving. They are depriving Syrians of food, of fuel. They are occupying the lands of the people of Iraq and Syria. They are the aggressors. When you come to another country, and no less on the other side of the world, with guns, with fucking tanks, you are an aggressor. You're a foreign invader. So you cannot say that what you're doing is, I don't care what you call it, counterterrorism, whatever bullshit. No, you're an invader. You're a fucking imperialist. So, you know, whether they want to call this Iranian-backed militias or no, it's the resistance. And if you go and look, it's black and white what it says in international law, right? In the UN Charter, you have the right to defend your country if you are under occupation by any means necessary. That's your right. It doesn't matter where you're from, anywhere. If you're occupied, you have the right to defend yourself. And look how lenient they're being. It's interesting, but who knows how long it'll last? I have no clue. I just want people to understand that the way the mainstream media has been framing this is so dishonest and disgusting. They're trying to make it they're trying to make it out to be that the United States is the victim, the West is the victim, even though they're the ones occupying Syria, occupying Iraq. No, they're not victims. They're aggressors. They're invaders. They're occupiers and colonizers and imperialists. They are not victims. And they're trying to paint the resistance. They think that if they call them they call the Hashd al-Shabi Iranian-backed militias, right? They put Iran in there to scare you and brainwash you into hating Iran and hating anyone who stands up for themselves. That this will make you acquiesce and not think too hard about what's actually happening. No, this is the resistance. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. It's interesting that with drones, I didn't know that they've been using drones now, right? Perhaps not as sophisticated as the American ones, but drones nonetheless. So, yeah, this is very important. They've had enough. The Iranians, the Iraqis, the Syrians, the Lebanese, they didn't tolerate 4 years of Trump and 8 years of Obama and 8 years of Bush and various attacks on their sovereignty just to come and accept Biden. No, this is not going to last. This is not going to last. And now the U.S. is on the run. We're shifting. We're seeing a shift to a multipolar world, right? It's not the same anymore.